Hey, Bob.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. You got several guys in contract years coming up. How do you prioritize how you address those situations?
Well, we want all those guys. Can we get them all? I don't know. It depends on what the money ends up being, what the ask is, what we can do. We're not at a point to make those decisions yet. Right now, you could make this decision too. We want all of them. Where it ends up, you know, the more I've been in this, the more I realize there's no absolutes. I could sit here and say, we want this, we want that. Some of these decisions may be made in the next 2 weeks, and some might be made in 7, 8 months, and the information that we have then will be helpful as far as making those. And then it's a negotiation, to be honest. It requires a conversation, and usually you don't really realize a true position, even ours, until you're at a deadline. Sometimes you have deadlines, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's deadlines that are set that aren't formal, where another side would say, look, if it's not done by the start of the season, let's just push it. But we haven't even gotten to those kind of conversations. I think we will, but I don't know where we'll end up. But we like them all. I'm not going to like them in order for you. That doesn't do me any good, but we like them all.
In terms of Jordan, because there is a deadline coming up on him, how much has been discussed, talked about, or just consideration given to doing something with him?
We're going to meet with his representatives, I think, after Tokyo and sit down for the first time and start having that conversation. And I think that's about 2 weeks out from the deadline for him. And where that'll go, I don't know. I know that they want to meet, and I know we want to meet. And then we'll see what the next 2 weeks give us.
Hey, Bob. I mean, you guys have been in this situation before, and you guys have been extremely successful. When you're successful, people want raises. People want to get paid. But going into this situation, do you feel like you've been in this kind of predicament before with, you know, a bunch of guys who probably want to raise, you know, want to get extended? Have you had this exact situation? Do you feel like this might be your most difficult one to navigate as you try to retain guys and keep this team intact?
I mean, every year, Jason, we have not had this specific situation. We've won the most games in the regular season. We were the worst team in the league a year. We've seen a lot. This group has, Steve and myself, and even prior to that. But I don't know that we've been here exactly. But that's the beauty of the NBA, and my job is to try to navigate stuff we haven't seen. We've seen iterations of having to exceed a salary threshold, and that's Joe's decision. We've gotten under the cap for a few years. I think it's true. We won 2 titles under the luxury tax, and obviously we won a couple over, and quite significantly the last year. So it can be done a lot of different ways. My experience is that sometimes these things sort themselves out, sometimes they don't. But right now, it's hard to say where this unfolds. But we like all those guys. I don't want to, it's a high-class issue, in my opinion. Most of the time, you're struggling to get any players. But to have a lot that you want to keep and that are worthy of getting paid, it's kind of what you want. And then we have to see what ends up happening.
Bob, you mentioned Jordan. With Draymond and Andrew, have you met with their representatives? And if so, how did it go?
Yeah, great. The meetings are all great. These are nice people. I saw Draymond. I saw Rich Paul the other night. You know, but again, we can negotiate about buying your car, but if I know I have 2-3 weeks until you decide what you want to do, it's real, but it's not you don't force a decision. Sometimes things get done prior to a deadline. You see guys that are extended in certain situations, but in many times it does approach a deadline. A couple of these guys don't have a specific one. Jordan does, but they've all been good. The good news for us is I don't hear anybody that wants to leave. That'd be a worse problem if they said, I don't want to be here, I'm out of here at the end of the year, or I don't want to be here, trade me. Not hearing any of that. So the goal will be to try to figure it out the best we can.
If they don't get done, or some of them don't get done, do you anticipate that potentially being an issue in season?
I don't think so, but I've been on the side where, as an agent, I would sit with you and say, Anthony, you want to take this $100 million, or do you want to play it out? Hard for us to imagine that decision, but Some players say, I don't honestly think that would go well for me, and I don't want to play with that over my head. And some have the ultimate confidence to say, that means nothing to me, and I'm going to hold out for what I think might be a bigger payday. It depends. It's kind of personal. I mean, if the money's close, you know, if you get it close to where guys want it to be, they usually take it, in my having been on this side and that side. But if it's a big gap and a player is a certain kind of mindset, they'll go with it and play it out. I can't tell with these guys. They all seem like they're pretty confident and stable, and they'll take a deal if they like it, and I guess if they don't, they won't. But it's hard to say right now.
Bob, as you've had a couple months to reflect on Klay's comeback and what he was able to do, how amazing and special was that to watch? And also just how eager are you to see him, going full bore from the beginning this time?
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, there's a lot of great stories, but from the time he tore his ACL, that year, and then the Achilles, there's all these kind of defining moments, being back in the back with him when he did that, and then he walks out and shoots the free throws. That may be, if I were to remember one thing, and being able to walk off the court with him back in the training room, hearing he probably tore his ACL, he shoots his free throws, and then he tries to run back. I could walk through that whole thing. Like, this is where I stood, this is where he was, this is where I was yelling at him, don't run back. He's running back. And then I know exactly where I was. I was sitting right there when I got the call from his agent that his Achilles might be torn. And then we walked down there, went to my office. So why is that relevant? I will never forget the night he walked out in Chase to play. Probably the most memorable game, maybe even more memorable than any of the finals games for me. So, it's if we're lucky enough to stay somewhere like Steve and I have gotten to, and some of these players, you get these stories like that. Most of the time, you don't stick around long enough for him. So he came in today, and he's just, Klay, he's just got this infectious energy, and he just loves basketball. So happy for him, and I'm really excited. This is the first time we're healthy in a while going into training camp. I hope we can stay that way, but for the last few years, we've been a man down or more than one. And it's a good feeling for someone in my position to know at least we are healthy at the start.
Hey, Bob. Sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Steve was saying how Andre still hasn't made his retirement or coming back decision. How does that impact you and what you're able to do, plan money-wise, roster-wise? And have you ever been in this situation where training camp starts in 2 days and there's still someone who hasn't made that decision if they're returning or not?
Well, I've never had someone like Andre, so I guess you got to have leverage to play that this far out, which he does. He's earned that right to make his own decision. We want to have him make the own decision. We don't want to force him into something, and then 2 weeks later he says, I'm not up for this. So we're waiting, and we haven't had something we have foregone that we really like, so we haven't put pressure on him to say, listen, we got this other thing we really want to do, you got to tell us. We haven't done that, we haven't had that. But you may see it, you may not, people in this room, there's so much he does that is not on the court, and there's a lot he does on the court too. And it's really hard to find that kind of stability and leadership on a team that he brings, even for Steve and myself. I mean, I can go talk to Andre, and he just knows. He's really smart. He knows our team. He's a true professional. He understands the league. He's seen a lot. I mean, the guy played in, 6 out of the last 7 I don't know how many finals. He's just crazy. So he's someone you want around. If it was up to me, we'd keep him around a long time, even if he wasn't playing. But we're running out of time. I'll call him when we get out of here, see what he's doing.
Let us know.
Okay, no problem. Actually, he's going to let you know, apparently. You'll know when I know. So watch his podcast, I guess.
Could he, wait and not, come back, later in camp, early in the season, mid-season? Would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, depending on the reason, the why of it. Like I said, he's earned latitude. If we put something to him and said, hey, listen, we had an injury or we had something come up in a buyout capacity where we said, Andre, if you don't want to come back, we like this other thing. I don't think he's going to do anything like that unless there's a real good reason. I think he wants to, if he plays, be a part of it. But if he came and said, listen, I'm not quite ready, or I don't want to go to Japan, or whatever it might be, we'd probably be fine with that.
A little complicated question here, Bob, but over here. With the three guys coming up in the contracts, and also we know about the looming big luxury tax number that could be out there, certainly in a year. Is it like, let's just get these guys in and you can deal with the number in a year? Or are you already thinking about what's coming down the year as you talk to these guys about their number now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the thing I've learned, and this isn't a criticism at all, but look at the team down the road. You just don't know, what's going to happen. You have no idea. Things flip immediately as far as what you think is going to happen, what everybody thinks is going to happen, and then what does happen. So our job, my job, is to let's try and do all these things in a way where we feel good about it. That may not line up in the way they feel good about it. But then, even if that was the case and we got something done with all, then look forward and see what you do with that. I got a story I could tell you later about a situation where we were thinking about extending a guy, and much was written that if we had done that, we couldn't have signed a free agent. And looking back, that player that we offered an extension to ended up signing a max contract, meaning if we had had him at the number we offered, we could have moved that player and gotten something for it. Are you following that at all? Okay, so you know the deal. It's an example of who knows, right? But it's not necessarily. There's a lot of variables to these decisions, a lot of variables. So it's not, even when we model, the goal is to get players on a deal that obviously they like and we like. And if you can get there, then you deal with that. But I don't know if that's going to happen, Tim. I don't know right now.
Bob, you've been saying for the last few years, you just want to see the team, right? I want to see the guys. You haven't seen them with Klay. Feels like you saw them. Are you still in that mode where there's some things you still need to see? Is that the perennial existence of a general manager where you got to see the team before you deal with all these big decisions?
Yeah, I mean, last year, I was sitting somewhere else, but someone asked, what do you think the team? And it was hard to say, but I thought if Klay comes back, we'd have a shot. I probably feel a little better this year than last year. It doesn't mean we'll do what we did last year, but I feel like we know our team a little bit better. Even though with the young guys, there's still a lot of uncertainty. Those three guys have just their ability to compete at the level, Steph, Klay, Draymond. We got to see it again. It's almost like until they don't, I have to believe they will and can. Why would I believe anything else? It's a little unclear. I do think Porter, Peyton, Bielitsa, we knew a little bit more about them than we might know about JaMychal and Dante. We have an idea of them. So I don't know what they'll be. I don't know as much as you on the young guys. What's Wiseman going to be? He's going to obviously help us because he didn't do anything last year. So I think he'll be helpful. The league is a lot of guys coming back from injury in the West. So I think the West will be really difficult. The East is really hard too. So I think our goal in the front office would be, can we be labeled a contender? And I don't know where you draw the line there. I think it's easier to say that this year than it was last year for me. It doesn't mean I rank us as a favorite or anything like that. But last year, if you said, are you a contender? I might say, I think so, but I'm not sure. This year, I'd say, yeah, I'd put us in that category as a contender.
How much of the roster, some of the roster reconstruction choices in free agency particularly were luxury tax-based, but how much of it was wanting to keep the path somewhat clear for the young guys who pretty obviously are going to have much more of an opportunity to play this season?
I mean, it wasn't as simple as let's not sign guys to clear the path. If those two guys, those three guys, if those guys wanted to come back, they could have come back. It was more about the financial part, to be honest. And we didn't not say to the free agents you're referring to, well, we want. We didn't say come back at this number, and no, we need that space for the young guys. It just happened the way it happened. Whereas some of the guys got nice deals, and we couldn't match them, and so it cleared the path that way. But it wasn't a conscious. Yeah, we'd love to have these guys back that were really helpful, but then the young guys wouldn't play. It wasn't that. Then it became, well, who else can we get on a minimum or some of the tax pyramid level And are those guys even better than the guys we think we have? And the answer was, let's just roll with our young guys and see what they can do rather than sign a minimum unknown that we didn't love. That was the thought process.
Bob, you've said in the past you wanted to get some guys, right, and they just didn't want to come here. Is that different? Was that different this summer after winning the title, after seeing Steph and Klay? Was it easier to kind of get the guys you wanted to get?
Well, no, because we didn't have a lot of money. You need money. But, it's funny, when we were with Dante, even when we were trying to get Gary or Otto, our guys are they should just be GM. They're more important than I am. I mean, when Curry calls a player, that's very important for him to call a free agent and say, you want to come play with us. And he did that. And Draymond, I can't stop him from doing that. He just does it on his own. Klay, I have no idea if he knows who he signed, or he doesn't even know who's on our team. He's down there right now. So I'm lucky to have guys that free agents want to play with. But we had to work. I mean, we had to wait to see if JaMychal got bought out. He had options, chose us. DiVincenzo was, fortunately for us, a guy that liked our situation. I think he had a better financial situation in front of him. And then, look, we tried on some guys we didn't get. So it's hard to say. I do think in the end, last year we were what those three, well, including Iguodala, it's very rare to get that kind of output from 4 minimums. It's kind of unprecedented. Like we had in the finals, I mean, Gary was starting in a series, minimum player, Otto, minimum player in huge minutes, Andre, what he gave us, Bielitsa. I mean, that's I don't think we can redo that one. That was pretty good. That's a hard one to do.
Hey, Bob. NBA off-season drama has affected 2 contending teams, and you referenced a couple times the longevity you guys have. How important is the stability in the leadership positions on this team, front office, you, Steve, in terms of what you've been able to do? I mean, how can you draw a direct correlation?
Yeah, I mean, when we lost Game 7 in 2016, Steve and I were back in the old arena, and it's for those of you that were there, probably a lot of you were, you're not in our capacity, but it's a pretty raw time for emotion, and there's so many opportunities to just say things that you can't unsay. And I'm lucky to work with a guy like Steve, where he's such a decent human being and so kind of humble and selfless that any of you could work with Steve. You'd love to work with Steve. So he's a wonderful partner. And his leadership, because he touches the players more than anybody from our organization, and to guide us through some high highs. But even when you're in the high highs at the top, there's a lot of scrutiny on your team. There's a lot of focus. And when we were talking the other day about what we did last year, he referenced the hard part wasn't last year. It was the year we had the worst record in the league and COVID, keeping the culture together, not fracturing then. Because when that happens, somebody gets fired, somebody starts blaming other people. Steve and I get at odds. Players get frustrated. Curry calls me and says, I don't know if I want to be here. None of this happened, by the way. I just want to be clear. This is all, just to be very clear. Headline, Curry called Myers. But that happens, right? It happens all the time, every day. The star player says, I'm not sitting here. Where's our team going? My wingman's out for the year. You got all these young players. I'm not doing this. I got 4 or 5 good years left. I'm not staying here. None of that happened. Curry's a huge part of it. Joe allowing us to spend, Steve's leadership. And stability in sports, I think, is the hardest thing now. I mean, you're going to see teams, whether it's free agency, whether it's players seeking a quick change, or people like me or owners getting impatient. It's really hard. I mean, I think something like Steve's the 3rd longest tenured coach, and I'm the third GM or something. It's crazy. I mean, and I guess we've been here a long time, but that's the thing that I guess if we were to be proud of something, it's that. Obviously, the championships matter, but yeah, stability, because in the course of a relationship, or if you're in professional sports, you're going to go through these really tough situations, which people forget we did. You don't want to be the worst team in the league, and we were looking pretty bleak. And then to come out of that, you just don't get that chance to do it like that, because usually when you're that bad, it's all over. So it's people, it's Joe sticking with us, I suppose, and Curry's huge. I mean, that guy's just, he's not, I mean, I see him every day, but I know you appreciate him, but who he is it's the rarest of rare. It's just so unique to have that kind of temperament, that kind of leadership, be that teammate. When he acts the way he acts, you can't not follow that, as even me. So it's probably for all those reasons, I guess.
Bob, when Patrick fell to you guys in the draft, people looked at the fact that he didn't have a good year in college, didn't do well at the combine. But in hearing from people around here, his workouts and what he's been doing over the past month or two, it's been really pretty positive. What are you seeing and hearing about Patrick?
Well, Ron Adams is a huge fan. Ron's probably telling everybody he loves him. And Ron does love him. You know, Monty, he's good. All we can expect at this point is the guys show up. Does he work hard? Is he a good kid? He's doing all those things. We haven't seen him play against the big guns. We are not looking at him like he's going to help us, but we are looking at him as if he could help us in the future. He's got all these attributes that usually lead to success: size, skill, acumen. He looks healthy now. So, you know, I'm hesitant to say anybody's great or not early, but he's done a nice job this offseason. And Jama, the director of our player development, and obviously got promoted. I've never seen a better organized and cohesive offseason program ever in my 12 years. So I want to give the coaches some credit too.
Is there a chance that he will spend considerable time in the G League?
We talked about it the other day. As far as what we expect, I think he starts there, but I don't want to take away his chance to earn minutes. Steve's going to probably play a lot of guys in the preseason, and after the sixth guy, I think you guys spoke to Steve. After the sixth person, it's kind of who takes it. Is he going to take it? I don't know, but there's opportunity for him if he can grab it.
As you're obviously starting to look at extension talks and future, expenditures. There's a CBA coming and there's, with potentially luxury tax tweaks and a new TV deal that's going to explode the cap probably. How much are you taking that into account as you sit down with Jordan's reps and some of the other?
Yeah. I think our goal organizationally is just to sign good contracts, and then what the rules are, we have to abide by them. We will. What's our budget? Truth is, we probably are blown through the budget a few times. Does that mean we'll keep doing it? There is limitations to all of it, but we factor in where we think things going. You have access to a lot of the same information as far as what the projections are, but you don't want to look at it and get too aggressive. It's just projections. There's projections. We make conservative ones, we make aggressive ones when we're in the room and we say, well, what if we sign this player for that amount of money? And then we sign this player for that amount. And then somebody says, well, what if we could do this? That might work. It's not as if we're looking as far ahead as the new CBA. We're not looking that far because I don't think anybody knows that.
Joe was kind of vocal on believing that the tax penalties shouldn't be as stringent for guys you guys drafted. I don't know if you can kind of speak on your opinion.
I can't. I can't.
Do you expect, I don't even know if you can answer that, but do you expect maybe down the line that your tax penalties might be tweaked?
I mean, if you and I want to go get a beer or something, I can guess.
How's your hip injury and what's your availability?
Let's talk about things that people care about.
Okay.
But I appreciate that.
You weren't
I'm
available for
trying
the
to, I'm
San
trying to get
Quentin.
back. Thank you for asking.
They missed you in San Quentin.
They did. Yeah, I missed being there. We have an elevator operator that came from San Quentin, Anthony. So I'm glad we're still doing it. I wish I could go. That was actually my anniversary, but I couldn't have played anyway. That's a really nice tradition that our organization has been doing for 10, 12 years now, and the inmates get a lot out of it. We get more, I think, than they do. It's been exciting to see Aaron Taylor get out and do the pregame. I did a podcast with Aaron. Forgiveness, it's a good for people like ours that haven't had such a tough childhood in many respects to see one mistake go bad for these guys. But it's great. I'm glad we do it. It really shines a light on a lot of things that these are people that they really benefit. I think the thing that I hear from talking to people that are in there or work there is like it shows them that they matter. Imagine if you're in San Quentin, you don't feel like you matter much. So it shows that they matter.
Patty and I had a tremendous experience in there, and Vern Glenn and Raymond. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I should ask what you think. You can tell me later.
James, obviously he's only played 39 games. There's not a lot of data for you to go off, but he's entering his third season. You have a fourth-year contract option to decide upon coming up. Where are you just kind of viewing him right now, entering really his first training camp ever, and just his future with you guys?
Yeah, well, when we drafted him, we knew he had to play, and he just pick your reason: COVID injury, weird missed training camp. He just never played. I mean, he got to play a little bit his rookie year, and he started getting some momentum, and then it went away. He hurt his wrist. He looked like he was getting somewhere, and then obviously his knee. But the good news is he's played a lot this summer, and every day, my opinion, he seems to be getting a little bit better every day. And he can't do that if he's not healthy. But he's been healthy. We track kind of the pickup games, and he's the only one in the facility that played in every one, which is nice. One, that he wants to. A lot of guys are kind of like, I don't want to play today, I'm tired. So it shows a work ethic, but also a health component, that he didn't miss anything. There's no swelling. Happy that he's healthy. Now he can start the work. And I'm sure you asked Steve, but we met on it. It's really about defining his role, putting him in positions to succeed. And I imagine you'll see, my hope, as the training camp goes on, as the season goes on, he just keeps getting a little bit better and reading coverages and understanding our schemes. And it even took Andrew Wiggins, who was healthy, if we're being honest, a couple years to learn how to play with our guys, and it seemed like it finally clicked last season. But it's not a system, I think. Some players can drop right into it, but many takes a little while to figure out. Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah. Offline. That's a coffee. Yeah, you get a coffee. I got to be more focused about that conversation.